Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Welcome to our little session, a little bubble of sanity in the middle of your day, I hope. So, I'm Kim from the Wellbeing Initiative, and Tracy's our IT person, and Marilyn is one of the GPs that works with us. So, here we are, and today we're going to look at how can we dump the stuff that's been dumped on us. That's basically what we're all about. So at the Wellbeing Initiative, we use a whole bunch of tools like meditation, but also specific dynamic meditations that help us to really let go of a lot of stress and anxiety and worry and things like that, so that we can deal with what we have to deal with without all that additional problem sitting there. So I'm just going to share my screen, and it's kind of easier to talk in pictures sometimes with this stuff. And here we go with dump what's been dumped on you. So first, let's just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we meet. Here we've got the Awabakal people. Thank you to them, and I pay respect to the elders past, present and emerging. So just let's drop into the space now, and then it'll be easier for us to take on what it is that we're going to experience today. So just start with rolling your shoulders a little bit. Focus on your breath. Just give yourself permission to close your eyes and just focus inwardly upon yourself. Just roll those shoulders. As you drop them, let the stress go. As you breathe in, lift your shoulders and then drop them. Again, breathe in, lifting the shoulders and then drop them. So the next one, breathe in as you take your chin to the ceiling. Be careful of your neck, and breathe out as you bring your chin down to your chest. Try that again. Breathe in as you bring your chin up to the ceiling, and breathe out as you bring your chin to your chest. And then just sit comfortably and be aware of right here, right now, letting go of this morning, letting go of this afternoon and tomorrow. And just be here now. Feel your feet on the floor. And take 2 more deep and conscious breaths. A deep breath in. And imagine you can breathe out through your belly. Once more, breathing deeply in. And again, imagine we can breathe out through the belly. Feels good. Feels good. Hope it feels good to you too. All right, bring your awareness back, and here we go. So, as I said before, the Wellbeing Initiative, that's where we're from, and we're all about well-being, both for the public, but we have specific programs for people in health, and a lot of our work is about assisting and supporting people in various roles in health. And so it's a great honour to be with you here today. And thanks to the Primary Healthcare Network for giving us this opportunity together. All right, so at the moment, I would imagine that everybody has got heightened levels of stress and anxiety from patients, from co-workers, from the thing that's going on in our world right now, that there's fear, there's abuse. I've heard of people in medical centres being abused left, right and centre. And it's a high pressure environment anyway, and then you have to wear a mask. So is it any wonder that people are getting very stressed? And stress comes at us in so many different ways. You can go to work feeling fine, and then you have some grumpy person who just dumps on you and you feel awful, like you just feel angry, you feel resentful about that person, whereas before you were feeling fine. So this is what we're going to be looking at today. If you happen to be a nurse or a doctor who's engaging with people all the time in terms of medical care, then considering that you're around sick people a lot of the time, and there's a certain kind of energy in, when people are sick, they're not well, they're stressed, maybe they're feeling flat, they're depressed. And it's kind of like a bit of a fog of not well-being. And as we interact with people, there's a merging of their energy, my energy, how I'm feeling, how they're feeling. It all kind of merges, and it ends up that a bit of what they were doing comes to us, a bit of what we were doing comes to them in terms of how we hold our energy. Happens to reception staff as well. And I've heard a lot of stories about reception staff really being in the firing line at the moment, with a lot of demanding patients who are wanting things that are just not available, and generally causing a bit of disruption. And again, all of that energy that's coming out of that person, it lands on us. And we know that from our normal human experience, don't we? Then there's the people who are just draining, and we've all met them. It's kind of like, to be dramatic, it's kind of like having energy vampires around you, people that you felt fine before you were with them, and then bleh, you just have lost all your energy. So that's a real thing. We've all been in those situations. And then there's this dear old COVID. And so I just can't imagine really what you guys are going through, but I would imagine there's a fair bit of added anxiety because of all that stuff. The masks, the demanding people, the this vaccination or that vaccination, all that. So yeah, it's different to normal. It's more intense, obviously. And we become like sponges. And what happens is that our field of beingness, our mind, our body, our emotional body, just kind of is taking it in, taking it in, taking it in. And then what happens is it generates within us even more worry and more anxiety, usually, until things feel like they're just getting too big. So there's no doubt that there's big challenges at the moment, and we get a bit anxious about that too. So that there's not only what's getting dumped on us, but then there's our own sort of nervous system response to that. And then it feels like the problem is just getting bigger and bigger. And we get to feel smaller and smaller as the problems we're facing on a day-to-day basis just seem to become a big hairy monster, if you know what I mean. And really, the actual situation, if it didn't have all of this angst overlying it, would be about the size of that black dot. So enough to worry about, definitely, like enough to deal with. But with all the worries and fears wrapped around it, it just becomes a lot. So what we want to do is that we want to get rid of that monster. And that's what today's about, so that we can deal with the actual issues that are in front of us instead of having all the hype and everybody else's energy wrapped around it as well. So there you go. We can get back to dealing with the original situation and the actual problems we have to, without all the overlay. And in this way, our sense of being overwhelmed tends to shrink. So the process we're going to use today is LIFT, which is a dynamic form of meditation. And we're going to take the mountain out of the molehill, so that instead of it feeling like the problems we're facing are massive and I'm just this little person and trying to deal with it all, instead of that, we're going to reverse the situation, and we're going to remember that we are this competent, capable person who can deal with whatever's going on. And the problem, we're going to just see if we can use the LIFT meditation techniques to see in our own experience whether this helps us to feel that we can manage better. So I'm hoping that by the end of the session today that you'll notice a change in your state. So LIFT meditation came about as I've been practicing this sort of thing for a very long time, but we refined it with the help of Kathy Parego. So she comes at it from a psychiatric background. Gayatri's our positive psychology person, and my background was actually in law. So I was a barrister and I represented people in court who had stress claims mainly. And a lot of my clients were nurses and also teachers. They were probably 70 to 80% of my practice involved those two occupational groups. And so I saw firsthand just how tough it was to be a nurse. And it got me very interested in things to do with stress, anxiety, depression, because I was trying to have to prove their cases in court all the time. And then it became very personal when I had a bit of a burnout situation back in the early 1990s. And that's when I learnt to meditate myself. And that was because one of my colleagues at work said, God, you're a mess, you should go and learn to meditate, and took me along to his teacher, who was just gorgeous and lovely. And it became such a great thing for me to be able to twice a day, when I woke up in the morning and before I went to bed of a night, or in bed actually, I would meditate. And boy, did it make a difference. So the type of meditation we're doing today, which involves a whole lot of evidence-based type things, is a dynamic form. So you wouldn't do it before you were going to bed. You might do it in the morning, or you might do it when you get home from work if you're feeling stressed. And you might do it in the middle of the day if you're feeling stressed. You could do it in the lunchtime like we're doing now, which is why I chose this form of meditation for us today. And the idea is that we're going to wring out that sponge that's collected everybody's stuff, and we're going to see if we can just come back to self a bit more. Right, so the starting place is going to be, let's just have a little whinge about what is it that's driving you a bit nuts at the moment. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and look at the chat box and see if you could type in the sorts of things that are driving you demented in your workplace right now, and then that will be what we do lift on. So I'm going to assume, before any of you start writing, that there is a fair bit of stress, that there's some anxiety, that there could be a feeling of overwhelm and possibly hopelessness. Like, when's this going to end? Like, when is this ever going to end? So I'm just going to write these things down, but I really would invite you to put in anything that you think you would like to pop in there. So things might be interpersonal conflict, or okay, being in lockdown. That's right. Yeah, telehealth. That would be really quite different and no doubt stressful. What are some other ideas about things that are getting you at the moment? How are you finding the temperament of the people you're dealing with? Are you finding that people are able to have the resources they normally do for bringing their best self forward, or are you finding everyone's a bit frazzled? Difficult patients, yeah. And you haven't got the subspecialty backups, yeah. Fear that it's never going to be normal. And lack of resources, yeah. And for the overwhelming mental health needs, yeah. Isolation, missing social groups, yeah. It's full on, isn't it? Because there's literature around, there's a lot of studies that have shown over the years that when we get to enjoy positive states, and we do that through our socializing, through our friends and all that sort of stuff, when we have the access to sort of ease of positive states, that in itself helps to undo some of the negative states we've experienced and helps us to be on an uphill trajectory into feeling fine, rather than when we don't have those things can kind of, it can spiral. Yeah. Okay, and family overseas, that's another one, missing family, and whether they're overseas or just somewhere else at the moment. They may as well, my parents live up the road 15 minutes, but they may as well be overseas at the moment because I can't see them anyway. So maybe some of you might have some of those things too. Anything else that you want to throw on the table as we start our journey today in a moment? Have a think. And I'm just going to share this again, just a couple more ideas before we start our practice. And while I'm just making that happen, to let you know again also that these meditations are recorded and that they will be made available in the Primary Healthcare Network education portal. And they'll be in two files. One is the whole presentation, and the other one is just the meditative practice that we do. So that if you just want to go straight to the meditation and do it again, you can. All right, so here's what's going to happen with group lift. We're going to use our breath and release with the breath. We're basically working with our autonomic nervous system, and it's incredible how much the autonomic nervous system responds to things like visualization, metaphors, and being spoken to. And there's a whole body of work which I'll be speaking about in a subsequent series, one of the other meditations, about some wonderful work that's been done to help people get in touch with what's going on the inside in our autonomic systems that is creating all of that stress and anxiety, and how we can more easily switch from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic state. So we're going to do that automatically in this. We're going to actually speak out loud. This is a dynamic form. And so the idea is that some people have a bit of trouble stilling your mind in meditation because so much is going on. So Lift allows us to get rid of a lot of the stuff that's going on in the mind so that we can get back to what it is that's sitting underneath. And we'll have some time for relax as well, and calling your energy back from the issues that we've nominated today. So that's what's going to happen. What you might feel during this process is you might feel the breath moving in your body more strongly than normal, but it's fine, it's safe. I've been doing this for 25 years in many countries in the world, and people generally find that it's an uplifting experience. Sometimes you'll feel tingling in the hands or other parts of the body as the heaviness that we might have taken on that we're not really aware of in our conscious mind, but it sits in the body and in our subconscious. And as that shifts, sometimes we feel a tingling sensation. It's perfectly fine. Sometimes emotions can surface to be cleared, and this is like a pressure valve being released, and it's a safe and wonderful thing. The same kind of thing that you might experience if you do mindfulness meditation, where sometimes those things come up, and it's very, very healing. And sometimes there's a sense of heaviness or pressure in the body, which leaves as we do more of the affirmations to release what we've taken on. And the end result, generally speaking, of these little processes is a feeling of relief, lightness, and clarity. So it's nearly 20 past 1. And so this process will go for about 15 minutes or so. And then we'll have a little bit of time to check in with each other to see how your process went. And then I'll stay on a bit longer. If anyone's got any questions or would like any more information, I'll stay on at the end. So here we go. Time for group lift. Let's do it. And I invite you, if you feel safe to close your eyes. Otherwise, you can leave them open if you wish to, but look down at your hands or something like that and be relaxed. Generally, for meditation, it's best with your back straight and your feet on the floor, unless you want to sit on the floor cross-legged, which is also fine. Either of those postures is good for energy flow. So if your hands face up, back straight, bit of a smile on the dial. And just going within, take a couple of breaths. And just as we did before, with the in-breath, lift your chin towards the ceiling. And with the out-breath, bring the chin to the chest. Just slowly and gently. We'll do that twice more, breathing in as your chin goes to the ceiling. And breathe out as the chin goes to the chest. Breathing in through your nostrils as the chin goes to the ceiling. And out through your mouth as the chin goes to the chest. And now let your belly relax and allow yourself to focus on your breath. And just calling to mind anything that you find uplifting, sacred, or gives you a sense of connection. It might be nature, or the earth, or a faith tradition, or some spiritual flavor or path, or just loving kindness. And just bring an awareness of that which you find soothing and uplifting into your heart space in the middle of the chest. And form an intention that you are ready now to let go of all that you've taken in from the people around you today and for the last few weeks, and to lighten the load on your body, your mind, your emotional body, and your whole being. Breathing slowly and deeply. And now we're going to release all negative thoughts, emotions, and energies that we've taken on from others. So I'll guide this release if it feels comfortable for you. Say it out loud. If it doesn't feel comfortable, don't say it. Or if you wish to, you can just think it. It's great to say it out loud because your nervous system responds the most strongly that way. So after me, say, I now release all negative energies, emotions, and thoughts that I've picked up from others in my workplace in the last period of time. And breathing in, and use the breath, releasing through your whole body. Mm-hmm. And be aware of your nervous system. And we bring our perception to that which is usually beneath perception, our autonomic processes, the nervous system that regulates whether we're in sympathetic or parasympathetic tone. And just say, I release all stressors from my mind, body, and whole being now. Breathing in and releasing. And think about the sense of hopelessness that's been pervading the place. When will this ever end? And we're going to release that sense of hopelessness and feeling stuck. So repeating after me, say, I now release all sense of hopelessness or stuckness with the current restrictions. And I set myself free to find my own peace, even in this situation. And breathing in and release everywhere. Really use your breath. Imagine that tiny little fragments of other people's energies are just going. And also we pick up a lot just from all the people around us, not just at work, but everywhere. And that feeling of isolation and loneliness, of being separated from family. Let's focus there now. And whilst we can't change that right now, we can change our relationship with that reality. So say, I release all of the pain that arises from separateness, isolation, and not being with my family and other friends. Breathe deeply in and releasing. Wow. For this particular group, it feels like that's one of the biggest things. So just breathing in again and say, I set free all of the anxiety and all fear for my loved ones that doesn't serve me or them. And breathing in and just releasing everywhere. Just imagine a cloud of that stuff leaving. And let's turn our minds to the usual supports that we have in our life, which may not be there now, in other ways, such as professional backup, allied services, and just being with your peers and colleagues. So say, I release the stress of work isolation and feeling unsupported in the current situation. And take a breath in and releasing everywhere. And then just take a moment to look at your own mind and just see what's happening in your mind at this moment. And let's just release any of the repetitive thoughts that arise at 2 a.m. when we're trying to sleep, that sort of thing. So just addressing your mind this time and say it's safe to release all repetitive thoughts of stress arising from the current circumstances that are beyond my control. And breathing in and release through the whole of the head region. Very good. Breathe in again and another release through the whole of the head region. Imagine you can breathe out all of that stress through the whole of the head. And just be aware of the heart center in the middle of the chest, your center of emotional cognition in a way, and a deep sense of sadness. And if you feel to, I invite you to release the sadness that's sitting on your chest. And I'll lead that as a release in just a moment. But if it feels too much, then don't do it. But if you wish to, just say, I'm now ready to release the sadness and the grief that has arisen in the current circumstances. And I set this free from my body, my emotional center, my mind, and my whole being now. And breathing in and releasing. Wow, that feels so beautiful and strong. And sometimes when we're in a situation where we just don't have control over things, we find ourselves losing energy, worrying, and giving our power to these things that we can't change. So I'm going to invite you to call your own empowerment back and to reclaim that essence or spirit of self that kind of gets caught up in the stuff. So thinking of the people or the circumstances, whatever it is, and say, I call my spirit back from all of the people, from the experiences, from the difficulties, and from the isolation experience. And I reclaim my own empowerment as a creative person. And breathing in, and then release down through the body and out through your feet into the ground. And if you're upstairs in a building, that's okay. Just release through your feet all the way down to the earth beneath the building. And we'll do that one once more. all the things we've been worrying about, in a sense, they've kind of taken a bit of our energy, and we're going to call that back and say, for the things I can't change, I call back my energy, my sense of personal empowerment, and my essence and spirit from these issues and problems. I call it back from the past and from the worry for the future. I call it back into this moment right now. And breathing in and hold. Might feel a little tingly as you do this. And then release down through your body and connect with the earth. And now in your mind, take yourself to a place in nature where you enjoy being, where it's quiet, where you're there either by yourself or with someone that you trust and love. And just imagine the place in nature and feel yourself sitting there in the sunshine, drinking in the energy, the beauty, and the calmness. With the next in-breath, imagine that you can breathe in from the calmness of nature and really connect with it. And with the next out-breath, feel how your out-breath becomes the in-breath for the trees in this place where you've taken yourself. As you breathe out, the tree breathes in. And as you breathe in, the tree's breathing out. You breathe in from the tree and you breathe out to the trees and plants all around you. And we feel gratitude in our heart for the cycles of nature, for our connection with the natural world. And we feel the peace of the natural world. And breathing that sense of peace right up into your mind. And hold. And then breathe out through the back of your head. And then just touching the heart area in the middle of the chest, intending to speak to the essence of you as a person. And say, I'm in tune with myself and with my resilient core. And I give myself permission to look after myself, to be kind to me, and to focus on the here and now, in the calmness and the peace. And breathe in. And then just breathing out to the earth. And then addressing your mind and say, whatever happens, I'll make the most of it. I'm resilient. I'm resourceful. I'm creative. And I choose to bring my whole self to this moment of now, to know that I matter and I'll get through this. And breathing deeply in and hold. And then releasing everywhere. And we'll finish in a moment, just taking a couple of minutes to observe your mind. And if any thoughts start to arise in your mind, as they probably will, just thank them and put them on a leaf beneath the big tree in the forest where you are. Let them sink into the earth. And then watch your mind for the next thought that rises. And just pluck it out. Imagine you can do that. Put it on a leaf beneath the big tree and see it sink into the earth. Once more. With any thought that arises, gently plucking it out and place it under the tree. Let it sink into the earth. Be aware of the stillness. Be aware of the calmness. And may this flow through the rest of your day. When you're ready, bring your awareness back into your body, and then feel free to open your eyes. How are we doing? Yes, if you do feel a lot coming up, there are so many resources here to help us, including in our own organisation, the WBI, the Wellbeing Initiative. We have a whole stack of free resources, as well as all these other ones. You can access supportive resources through the Primary Healthcare Network. You probably know that already. There's a whole lot of links to take you to places that are good. There's also the Member Assistance Program where you can get free services, and that's an excellent option. You can find out more about the PHN in all the usual places. And about us, we have a whole bunch of lovely meditations that are available that are designed for health workers on our website, thewbi.org. And if you go to the free resources part and press the listen button, they're all free and they're available for you at any time. So they can help you with emotions and self-care, calming the body. There's all kinds of headings. They're either done by myself or my colleague, Dr. Kathy Perego, who's a psychiatrist in New York. So the next session is next Monday night, and it's Today I've Done My Bit, permission for self-care and a delicious, more inward journey of feeling that you're having a spa in lockdown. So this was quite a dynamic practice. This Monday night one will be more restful. And then next Thursday, we'll be looking at releasing interpersonal stress. So another lighten the load type of dynamic practice next Thursday. And thank you so much for joining us. It's been lovely to be with you. I hope that it helps your afternoon. All the best.